sports writers, the Chicago sports writers. They're up in arms because Gil McDougal of the Yankees got that award instead of their own Minnie, who on the record was far out in front. So, the Chicago scribes will give Minnie Minosa a Rookie of the Year plaque of their own at their annual Diamond Dinner in January. It was Rogers Hornsby who called the shot that Gil McDougal would become a great Major League ball player. Hornsby is just as sure that George Schmies, whom the Browns drafted just a week ago, will also be a regular. Hornsby managed the Beaumont Club in 1950 when he first saw Gil McDougal. You know, the other day when first baseman Eddie Waitkus of the Phillies was married, the headline in the newspaper after the wedding said, Eddie Waitkus will now play second. Big leaguer takes on Albany Bride. By the way, here's the record on Minosa and McDougal. Minosa out-hit McDougal 326 to 306. Had more hits, 173 to 123. More doubles, 34 to 23. More triples, 14 to 4. More runs batted in, 76 to 63. And he led the American League in stolen bases. Those figures, say Frank Lane, White Sox general manager, should prove the system wrong. If it can't be changed, let's throw it out. Oh, yes, the latest report from Harrison Dillard is that he definitely will participate in the Olympic Games. Possibly not in the 100 meters, but in his specialty, the hurdles. Dillard is now working for the Indians, and he's a member of the Cleveland Boxing Commission. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I'm really thrilled and privileged to bring to our Voight Sports program a man who's been around the sporting world of Cleveland and has done so much for it, Mr. Frank Coyne. Frank, nice of you to drop in.
Thank you, Tom.
Frank, you and your co-partner Bob Blepp have just made a very, very important change in your business.
Yes, Tom, we've moved after being at Superior and 55th for 25 years. We've taken up our new headquarters at 4908 Euclid Avenue.
What was that number again?
4908.
4908. Well, Frank, you have larger quarters there. I was in there yesterday. I want to say it's magnificent. Frank, the reason I asked you to drop in tonight, you know I've been connected with the Voight Company of Los Angeles now on the air each Friday night. I know that you've handled much of their equipment. As a sport goods dealer, what do you think of the Voight rubber-covered athletic equipment?
Well, Tom, I'm not saying this because I'm on your program, but I think it's tops. Now, the rubber balls are replacing the leather balls very much nowadays. In fact, East Tech and West Tech played an official game last fall with the rubber-covered football. I happened to call the two faculty managers today, Mr. Yeck of East Tech, and he liked it very much. I called Lloyd Griffith of West Tech, and he said their punter thought it was a little heavy. Of course, remember that score was East Tech 37 and West Tech 20, so you can see why East Tech liked the ball very much.
Well, you know, Frank, Hazel and I were out to your place yesterday. You know what all the kids on my Christmas list are going to get?
I know you got some Voight balls to send to even California.
That's right, out to San Francisco to my two little nephews, the little twins. I think it's wonderful. And Frank, is it true that you could take that ball and stick it right in a bucket of water and...
Yes, and that's the report I got today, that this ball didn't get heavier during the game. It was a wet day, and the leather, when it gets wet, it's bound to absorb some of the rain and gets heavier, but a rubber ball will not.
Frank, is the athletic equipment of today, the overall picture, I don't mean Voight particularly now, I mean the golf balls and golf clubs and skiing equipment, archery and so forth, is the equipment better today than it was several years ago?
It's very, very much better, Tom. They hold up better, and they're very much better than they used to be.
Using some plastics in sporting goods now, are you?
Yes, that's especially in football equipment, a lot of plastics.
Frank, what happens with this tax that I talked about a moment ago? That might be very interesting.
Well, that's a great relief. You know, the tax is taken off on all of this equipment that the boys have to buy. Of course, the golfer, they're in the higher bracket, you know. The tax isn't off on that, and they can afford it. But for that equipment that the boys pay for and use, the tax is off, and I think that's very, as it should be.
Frank Combs and Bob Blepp, both of you fellas must have a lot of good thoughts about the future of athletics, to go and move into such elaborate quarters. What is the outlook on athletics for 1952, Frank?
Well, Tom, if Bob and I weren't very optimistic, we surely wouldn't make this move and take on the extra obligation that we have in our new place. We think it's going to be fine for the next several years. You know, the industrial plants are realizing more and more the importance of keeping athletics in their organizations. It keeps the men satisfied, something to talk about. Schools and colleges realize more and more the advantage of athletics, even though this bad scandal has been out the last year. But I think these schools and colleges will overcome that and keep their athletics.
Frank, this being a sport program, I always thought, for the kids a little older, I always like to go and buy them a baseball glove. Have the prices gone up much in baseball gloves?
No, in fact, the prices have come down a little this year, especially those items where the taxes have been reduced.
Well, now, Tom Taylor and Lawson Deming here, they may know a couple of youngsters there. What, say a youngster 8, 9, 10 years old, what could you buy a good fielder's mitt for, Frank?
Oh, you can get a good fielder's glove for $4 to $5, something that would be very satisfactory. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to overlook this football and basketball, the Voight football and basketball. You can get those as low as $5.35. That's very good balls.
That's a wonderful thing, especially for the youngsters to sort of push around the house. It doesn't get under the chairs and the Davenport. My gosh, Frank, a fellow told me the other day that you could use it right out in the swimming pool.
Yes, you can use it in the swimming pool in the rain. It doesn't bother them a bit.
What's the price on baseball bats? Have they gone up?
The baseball bats, that's one item that's gone up just a trifle this year.
Building so many homes, Frank, they're stealing all our good wood, eh?
You know, the trouble is it takes a baseball bat 4 or 5 years to cure right, and they just don't have the wood.
Frank, what is this warmer weather that we're having in winters doing to your skating situation?
Well, it probably hurts it a little bit, Tom, but there's so many of them going to the arena and out to the city ice rink on the west side that the sale keeps up good on the skates.
Frank, you were talking about the at East Tech and who was the other
East Tech, West Tech.
West Tech. Well, listen
Rivals.
to this. Here's another first for Voight. Tomorrow, the Tyler Apaches from Tyler, Texas, meet the Pasadena Bulldogs in the Little Rose Bowl game. Now, the Voight XF9 is the football these two undefeated junior college teams will use in this national championship game. It'll be the first time the Voight XF9 rubber-covered football has ever been used in a bowl game. Another step forward in retiring the old leather pigskin to the pasture. Now, the Voight XF9 is built just like any other football. It has a bladder, fabric lining, rawhide lacing, but it's covered with molded rubber instead of leather. Now, the Voight XF9 is waterproof, sheds water like a duck's back, is easy to handle even in the foulest weather. Now, the Voight XF9, like all Voight products, will last from 3 to 6 times longer than any other football. Now, that's mighty important to wise school buyers. Should be important to you parents, too. The Voight XF9 passes, kicks, and handles just like any other regulation varsity football, but holds its exact weight, shape, and size for the life of the ball. Hail to the new champion, the Voight XF9 football, the first rubber-covered football to be used in a bowl game. Well, Frank Combs, it's awfully nice of you to drop in on our Voight show tonight. I certainly want to wish 1952 and this particular Christmas season will be the best that you've ever had. You've been in the sporting goods business, Frank, for how long?
34 years, Tom, ever since I got out of World War I.
You tell me you were a hotsy-totsy basketball player, too, when you were a little younger, Frank.
Well, I played high school and college basketball.
Think you're ever as good as some of the boys in that Harlem Globetrotter team?
Well, I'm not as fast as they are, but I couldn't shoot as good as they can. I couldn't shoot as good as they can. I couldn't shoot as good as they can. I couldn't shoot as good as they can.